Hello, Rosie Collins here with another Extreme Ghostbusters episode commentary. This is Fear Itself. This is a rather unusual beginning. It's going to feature the Ghostbusters, which is not unheard of, but it's fairly rare. And it is not going to feature the Ghost of the Week, which is almost unheard of. Those two cops are character models you'll see a few times. The opening of Back in the Saddle Part 1 doesn't feature the Ghost of the Week. There may be others. Then again, there may not. But this is introducing the theme of the episode. And it's characterizing Garrett, who gets the most characterization in this episode, I think. And that's very similar to writer Dwayne Capizzi's other Extreme Ghostbusters episode, Deadliners. Garrett is characterized the most, then Eduardo and Kylie, and Roland even goes off and leaves them for a while and we don't see him in both of those episodes. Garrett's brashness and boastfulness is what we're seeing about him here, and he has this fear of confined spaces. He is claustrophobic, that he wants to hide, and that is the theme of the episode, fears. That's why it's called Fear Itself. He was talking about this being a level C. Later on we're going to get mention of level A. This "maybe he's dead" catchphrase doesn't last very long. Kylie thinks possibly it's a bit near the knuckle, but no, Garrett's not dead. He's in the phone booth. Level C, level A, presumably there's some sort of level B. I've never heard that anywhere else. Class 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., all the way up to 13 in the unseen is what I believe they normally have. It's in Ghostbusters, the original movie, as well. What class number is Slimer? Oh dear, I can't remember. And I think fans of the Ghostbusters franchise as a whole have some idea of what's what in terms of those numbers, but not me. I do love this episode. I've pointed out a niggle there, and I'm going to point out a couple more niggles, but it's a really good plot and character episode. I think possibly Dwayne Capizzi gets the best balance of plot and character, although possibly not when it comes to Roland, poor Roland. Arguably, I don't know, I don't want to commit to that, but this is a plot-driven episode with plenty of characterization, and there's Mr. Swank, who wants the swankiest nightclub in town. And the first time you hear that his name is Mr. Swank, that was very funny to me anyway. And he's going to just casually remark that he has a fear of heights, as one does. And it's going to be very, very clear to the audience what's going on here. This would be mine. I would take maggots, confined spaces, my own corpse over a height any day. And Roland's peculiar fear as well, which is both harder to imagine and to put into words. I do want to sound snappy when I can. And you are threatening Mr. Swank's life, aren't you, little creature? Hopefully I'll remember to come back to that point. There is threat to life down there. Now this scene's a bit of a funny one. I said there were going to be some more niggles. Under your supervision? That has got to be a hangover from when Janine was going to be the young Ghostbusters mentor. Otherwise, her saying that makes her one of those characters who unjustifiably big themselves up for absolutely no reason, like Sir Lounge-a-Lot from Blazing Dragons, or the incarnation of D'Artagnan in Albert the Fifth Musketeer. I don't know how much that means to my American audience. I can't seem to think of any such characters from the US. But talking of hangovers from before, you may have heard my Grundle-esque commentary or my video about ages of the Extreme Ghostbusters. We've got at least that hangover there, possibly another that I will come to when I get an opportunity. But what's the fridge doing in the basement? There's a coffee maker down there as well. And the desk. And the phone, which is going to ring in a moment. Everything's in the basement for this scene, because we need to talk about lunch and we need to answer the phone, and that's a bit peculiar. They're trialling this everything in the basement thing. They're not going to stick with it. Now, CITV cut this bit, Slimer throwing up. They cut his whole reaction to realising that he has eaten the steamed broccoli. Okay, they wanted to cut the throwing up because they're a load of prudes at CITV. But they could have kept in that, and the kind of filling up. Just so it's clear, it doesn't make any sense later on when Slimer's afraid of the steamed broccoli, if you cut that whole reaction. And when I got the bootleg DVDs and saw the whole of this episode, I thought, oh, that's why Slimer's scared of the steamed broccoli. It makes him sick. Very helpful construction worker here, explaining Mr. Swank has this fear of heights. So maybe they should have some idea what to expect. Might lose the use of a limb, says Garrett, waving the two limbs that work. Everyone knows Roland's right, and Garrett should be careful of those arms. You don't need me to explain that to you. We know Garrett is claustrophobic. We may have some idea, if we didn't get this off CITV, that Slimer's afraid of steamed broccoli, or we might not have made that connection. Everyone else, Slimer's a right thief in this episode, isn't he? Even stealing that stranger's lunch. But we may very well be wondering, what are the others afraid of? Here comes the "I'm not a screamer" line. Well, we're going to find out that that is incorrect. In this context, was she flirting, Eduardo, do you think? Well, that brings me to this possible other hangover that I was talking about from the planning stages. Is, in this episode, the idea that Eduardo's feelings for Kylie are totally unreciprocated, unlikely, unrequited. That's what that official website that I was decrying on those videos I mentioned earlier says. In this episode, Eduardo really seems to be going for something. Kylie doesn't seem interested. But look, she'll scream for this, doing a Yosemite Sam, walking into a door to a fall. But because this is an extremely realistic cartoon, she will not remain suspended as long as she does not look down. And don't worry, I'm not mixing up my Looney Tunes. That was an Elmer Fudd line. But Kylie is a screamer. She'll scream for that. She'll scream for maggots. She'll scream for Akira. She'll scream for Eduardo's lovemaking. Maybe, one day. But in this episode, was there any inkling of that? Was it totally unrequited? You'll see what I mean. Eduardo's really going for something here. Something possibly not very genuine, pulling back Roland like that. He doesn't want Kylie to get support as soon as possible. He wants it to come from him. And Kylie doesn't look too happy with the question, "Are you okay?" But she does look pretty happy to hide behind him there. Be protected by him. And then he helps her up. That's quite sweet. That's quite genuine, I think. And we found out, of course, that Kylie's afraid of maggots. And she's a little bit ashamed about this. On my Grundalesque commentary, I was talking about maturity and immaturity. It's pretty immature, isn't it, not to admit what you're afraid of? And pretty immature to tease her about it, too. And here, Eduardo is about to reveal, or in the process of revealing his fear. Thought everyone was afraid of death. There we go. That's his fear then, isn't it? If he thinks everyone's afraid of death, that means he's afraid of death. And I may have been thinking, astute child that I was, now how does that manifest in this place? Eduardo's not actually going to die, is he? Well, we shall find out. Eduardo's going to worry about it too when they cotton on to what's happening here. Which won't be long. There's no unnecessary dithering about, oh, what's going on? I don't understand. Roland's going to remember and teach me, aged about 13, acrophobia, a fear of heights. They've put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4. They think maybe it's a shapeshifter, not an unreasonable thought. And Eduardo is, as we shall see, worrying about this and not mentioning it to anyone. He's thinking, does that mean I die in this place? Is this the day I'm going to die? And we have to infer that as intelligent viewers, because Eduardo isn't going to speak about any such deep feelings. Garrett, you're a horrible tease, aren't you? Joking about fear of being naked in public. There goes Roland, separated from the 3 more engaging characters. Garrett was only joking about fear of being naked in public. If you want to make a Freudian interpretation of that, it has all got to do, hasn't it, with exposing yourself emotionally. We all know Eduardo likes to hide his emotions, but I think Garrett was just having a laugh. If Dwayne Capizzi thinks that even on some level Garrett was thinking of emotional vulnerability, then Dwayne Capizzi himself would have to be a Freudian for a couple of reasons. I'm not a Freudian myself. I don't have much time for the man who came up with penis envy and various other phallocentric theories. But anyway, we're about to see something genuine from Eduardo here, and Kylie's going to miss it because she's gone into the floor there. Now, who would want to see this reaction, this desperation that she's gone, and think that she's never going to return his feelings? Not me, that's for damn sure. Did you know I was a shipper? I feel I may have mentioned it once or twice. Now, Kylie, what were you expecting? I was expecting maggots. And there they are. Coming down from the ceiling there, sort of flu or something. That is nasty if you're afraid of maggots, which is really the point. No threat to life at the moment, though. Now, is one huge giant maggot scarier than millions of little ones, or about the same? Well, it's perhaps more visually interesting for the audience, and it's certainly easier for the animators. Here's the bit that CITV stopped making sense. Actually, there's another bit coming up, but Slime is scared of that broccoli, and there's even a smiling piece of butter on, as if some grown-up who doesn't understand these things has tried to make it look more appetizing. Doesn't work. Very fleeting, that was. We're to Garrett and Eduardo on their own now, which is something you do get in Dwayne Capizzi's other episode, Deadliners, the 2 of them having some conversations. And there's no point now, is there, Eduardo? Not admitting your fear to Garrett. Is he afraid he's just going to have to look at that coffin, or does he think he's actually going inside? But no, it's behind you. And this creature has separated the four of them. This "it's me, I'm dead" line may be of use, would be of use actually, I'm sure, to the visually impaired, but I doubt they were being considered any more than usual. People making film and television will just add something like that on if they think the audience is too stupid to understand. But with two good eyes then and one now, I see it's Eduardo. Now, in Kylie's case, we never see maggots again, so we can't say that that's inconsistent. If she ever saw another maggot, maybe she would totally freak out. Garrett does go in some small spaces, plenty of lifts or elevators if you prefer. I'll come back to that. See, ITV cut this bit. They should have kept in, "oh wait, I'm more afraid of that," as in the others finding him. If they wanted to cut, "I'm not letting anyone think I'm a pansy," okay, but cutting that whole couple of lines there, again, stops it making sense. He's going from, "maybe the others will find me," to, "there's nothing to fear but fear itself, I'm getting out of this," and he came out of his chair. So there's one for my mum. He was forced out of his chair in that episode. Coming back to that point about his claustrophobia, the lifts or elevators he's in, that sound effect, that scraping, that sets my teeth on edge. Very effective. Oh, fairly roomy compared to the confined spaces he suffers in this. They are proper confined, so maybe it's not inconsistent to say he is afraid of spaces this small, and there's some more threat to life. So if anyone wants to argue that that creature isn't trying to kill them, only to scare them off, you've got Mr. Swank, who could have quite easily fallen from that height, and Garrett was very nearly crushed there. And he's coming out of his chair again. The maggot is lifting him out, but it's going to drop him right back in it, quite helpfully. But he was out of the chair a moment ago, wasn't he, when I was talking about threat to life? Homemade wheelchair ramp, very good. But you can't do that here, on these stairs. Kylie's not keen on this. Perhaps she was sufficiently recovered to help him down. Roland's right. Garrett should be more careful. And here they all are coming back together for the denouement. I haven't even mentioned Roland's sphere, his equipment breaking down, manifesting as his proton pack turning into this creature. And they're coming up with this idea of fighting each other's fears. We can't face our fears, it knows that. But Garrett, actually, you did. And when you were trying to tell Kylie, "I've figured it out, there's nothing to fear but fear itself." Okay, they're not illusions, but you were right. You overcame your fear. You're not getting trapped in confined spaces anymore. You got yourself out of it. So actually, you did very well there. And your brashness and boasting are not unjustified. Now, Kylie needs Eduardo to point out that this is his corpse. And if she is not confused about what's real and what's not, and trying to figure him out and her own feelings, this ought to be fun line. It's just mean, isn't it? I wouldn't want to see her characterised like that. So maybe that is a hangover, along with the under my supervision bit. Lovely explosion on the giant maggot there. Very visually pleasing. Slimer with his broccoli, there's nothing else to say about that. But earlier on, Garrett was saying growing teenagers need their nutrients. Possibly that's a hangover too. If they were still in high school, age 17, 18, they would be growing, but by the time you get to college, You may still be growing a little bit, but they're young adults. Maybe a hangover from that original idea of them being high school age, which I decry on those videos I mentioned earlier. And now this creature's like, oh no, don't hurt me, I'm so scared, I'm so small. You weren't just trying to frighten them off though, were you? You were trying to kill Garrett and you were trying to kill Mr. Swank. Putting it in the containment unit mightn't be a bad idea. I'd be okay with that. Kylie's really defending it here. And she's going to say everyone wins. Creature gets left alone, we bury our fears. Mr. Swank doesn't win though, does he? He's probably spent quite a lot of money on these premises. And he wanted that space for his swanky nightclub. How on earth does he feel about this? We never get to find out because it's just too complicated to go into at the end of the episode here. Kylie gave Garrett a little tease about being claustrophobic, perhaps wanting to keep it to himself, and she did have the opportunity to see that when he came bursting out of the wall there that was crushing him. Unlike in Witchy Woman, where she starts going on about free biscotti at the end, and she didn't witness the free biscotti, but I'd better not get started on Witchy Woman, especially since it's the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you again another time. Which episode will that be? Actually, I think I do know. Killjoys. Hopefully see you then. Bye-bye.